I hope you all are doing well. I just wanted to make a quick video because as I was waking up this morning, I realized how dang quiet it is, mostly in my head, but it's quiet in the world around me now too, which is really strange. Usually I wake up and there's stuff going on and it makes me really agitated because, again, I feel like I'm doing nothing, But knowing these, so last week, this week, this is really what has been happening. These broadcasts, these transmissions through the mind, it's all turning off. And someone was saying something the other day about AI, the AI, these hubs or the stations that have been being taken out. And I really was like, well, that would be too good to be true. That would be super amazing. Is that even possible? But as I'm reflecting on it now, I know over the last 2 weeks maybe, I have been waking up in extreme terror and fear again. And I had dealt with this a while back, with the archons and all kinds of the anxiety and all the things were hitting me before I even had a chance to really wake up. But the way that I have been experiencing it is it's been extremely painful to come back into the body. And it's almost like I was feeling the static of walking through this screen of static that was splitting me out before I was coming back into my body. And it was really, really horrific. And just I was hating, it got to the point where I really didn't even want to fall asleep because I knew when I woke up, I was going to feel so crappy. And that had been getting really bad over the last week. But I've been noticing over the last 2 days, when I was waking up, bracing myself to have this fear hit me again, and it wasn't coming. So it's been really interesting. And then this morning was nothing. I woke up and I was wait, usually there's all this stuff that's hitting me before I even can become conscious, and I wasn't experiencing that at all. And I know for so long, I have been wondering how is this really going to happen when we really wake up? How are we going to experience this in our bodies as humans? What is this going to feel like? Because again, I know we talk about 5D and New Earth and all these things, and it's just going to be beautiful. And everyone talks about when you get to 5D, the colors are so brilliant and everything just feels, more vibrant and really the experience that I've been having is more through the mind, right? It's with my thoughts, how much that has been changing. And I kind of touched on this the other day, but that in and of itself can be really awkward and uncomfortable to recognize the level of mind control and the level of broadcasting that we have been receiving in our fields. I'm a little bit, I don't know what the word is to describe it. I'm overwhelmed. I'm sad. I'm grateful that is not who I was, to wake up and find, because I have been so hard on myself. And I know I said this the other day, right? I know that's part of the program and I know that's part of the machinery, but to actually experience not having that, it makes me want to cry because so much of this journey and so much of just watching, right? Because I've just watched the process that other people go through. I watch all the different paths that people can take, and I've been on my own path, right? And come into contact with so many different ways of trying to make sense of all of this. Someone told me once that, oh, you're a shadow worker. And she kind of did this, thing, And what I'm realizing now, right, it's not shadow work, it's illumination work, because we've been living with these shadows all our lives. I think a fear so many people have is like, I don't want to look underneath the pain because I'm afraid of what I'm going to find. And the sad reality is that, well, you're already living with those shadows. You are already in hell right now. So to look underneath them is only going to be, in the way I have experienced it, right, and going after some of the worst things in my life, especially when it came to like the sexual abuse and things that I really did not want to face and that I really didn't want to know about, that it was a fucking relief to finally be able to throw those covers off, to look underneath that, and to see that, you know, what was underneath was just me. You know, that I had been covering myself up, that I had been, by not wanting to face that fear and look underneath that, like I was only doing a disservice to myself. Because, you know, the broadcasts and the transmissions that we are receiving are telling us to maintain the status quo, right? It's like, who are you good? And we hear this from childhood. Like, what are you going to be when you grow up? What do you want to do with your life? What do you want to accomplish? Like, let's set some goals. Let's achieve. Let's work towards that. Let's wake up every day and have positive thoughts and like, let's work really hard and become something that we are not already. And that is the biggest lie ever. Because if there's anything that I have learned on this journey, it's that we are already who we are. And the only thing that's happening is that this system is trying to tell us that we are not, that we need to become something else that is outside of us, when really everything that we need is already within us. But that's a journey to figure that out, right? Like, that's the whole point of the journey. It's like Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, right? With the shoes, like, you had the power all along. You just didn't know it. You have to learn that you have the power, right? And that's what this journey teaches you. And I even hate to call it a journey at this point, because what I'm realizing is probably 100% of the pain, 100% of the obstacles that I encountered was through, it was the programming, it was the systems. And we know this, right? Like, we incarnate into these things in order to have to release them. But so much of this work is being done, and the people who are coming forward now and who are waking up are not going to have to deal with the kind of shit that we had to deal with dismantling all these programs, right? Like, these things are coming apart, and it is mind-boggling to me, because what I woke up feeling today was really like, I can see how this could split people out though too. Because this quiet, right? It's like, if you identify with these stories and you identify with this constant chatter in your mind, when that stops and you're left with, well, then nothing, right? Because if that's all you're identifying with and you're just left with yourself, it's like, oh, well, yeah, right. Who am I? You know, if you haven't spent time with who you are, if you haven't gone within to experience your connection to source and who you are, that can be really scary, you know. One of the things I was thinking about yesterday too, because I was outside, I had said I have all these journals that I finally was able to kind of get rid of, and I wanted to just throw them away, but I, was like, I should probably just burn them and honor my process and honor what I have been through, and not rush this, because that's what I've really been feeling about these last 2 weeks is really giving myself the space and the time and honoring the amount of work we have put in, the amount of really discovery of all of this, and really the letting go of that portion of this journey. This really, it's been, I think for many of us, it's 2 lifetimes in this lifetime, the part where we had to uncover all this crap and dismantle all this shit, and now we're in this new creational energy. But before we really get there, we're kind of in this void space, right? This having to let go of all of these things that we thought that we were, and now realizing that all of these things we thought we were was really just a program, and it was really these broadcasts and really all of these lies. So resolving that in the human is really, it takes a little bit of work, because it's not just like I step over this line and all of a sudden I'm happy and I'm in this new energy. It's been in our biology, it's been in our cells and our bones, in the electrical impulses that run through our body, which is not even really matter, so So needing to give ourselves space and surrender to that process of release is, I have found these last, like yesterday too, like having to sit and allow this to release from my system is also really uncomfortable, because it's letting go of, again, these things that I have thought were me. And it feels like, almost like if someone were to take this teddy bear, that I've had all my life, that I have, like, this has brought me comfort. This is like what I go to when I'm feeling unsafe, it comforts me. And then someone's like, no, you really, like, you don't need that. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't, I like it, but it's something that I've clung to, right? That I thought I needed. And it did bring me comfort, but it was, well, I didn't need it, because within myself, I have everything that I need, right? I can comfort myself on my own, but to have that physical, tangible thing, right? All this electrical interference finally taken out is like, it's a little bit unsettling. It's a little bit uncomfortable. And so one of the things that I experience in my life is a lot of fear about just being in the world. And I don't even mean like as far as mission or things like that, but just in my neighborhood. Like, it's a really weird thing, because where I live, the way my house is situated, it's a little bit up on a hill, and all these houses back up to each other very closely. And so I always feel like I'm on display, like even in my backyard, like I'm at the highest point, and like I just, from the road, you can see, it's like, it's a really weird situation. And when I wake up in the morning and I start hearing the world around me moving, I start to get really agitated, because I'm like, I hate being out there. I feel like everyone is judging me. I feel like everyone is observing me and watching me. And like, I probably shouldn't live in the neighborhood that I live in, because I don't care about things the way that I used to care about, in terms of having that image and upkeeping the yard and like doing all these things and manicuring everything, right? To hide the distortion that's happening on the inside, right? And so, but recognizing now that even that judgment that I thought I was feeling from other people was really, it's the system. It's the system broadcasting through them. And yeah, I probably am feeling judgment, but that judgment that I'm feeling is not, it's not those people, it's not those beings, it's the system. And so to realize that we are fighting each other, and it's not even us. It's what the system and the machinery is doing through us. And it is, and I know I've read this, right? And people have said this, like, oh, it's creating this divisiveness, and it's pitting, people against each other. But to really feel and to really see this and experience it as this warfare of energy, using us, these vessels, the human bodies, as pawns, like, I can't even say it's disgusting to me. It's just, it's unbelievable what I am seeing and the way I am experiencing it. It's so, at the same time, it's such a relief, but it's like I feel like a prisoner who has been let out of jail, and I don't know how to assimilate back into society. Like, I can't even believe what I am feeling right now. The level of, I can't even say programming, right? It's just straight control and straight, it's just mind control. And even though I knew this, right? I knew this was happening, to actually experience, when it gets turned off, to experience that is like, oh my gosh. At the same time, it is extremely beautiful to realize that, oh God, like the things that I felt about humanity, like, okay, that was something else. Like all these horrible things, that is something else. That is not really human. That is not really what a soul does. That is not what Source is. How could Source let all these things happen? Okay, that was not Source. That was the machine, which is a relief. But again, this integration, this assimilation back into life. I can see how this could split a lot of people out if they're not aware of it, you know. If you have been identifying with this programming and these streams of thought that have been running through your head. But the beauty of it, you know, is coming to realize that this is all happening. Like, this is really all happening. We have been given the opportunity to return back to ourselves, to rediscover who we are. And it's not even to have to discover that as much as to just allow that to flow up again, you know, through our fields. So I don't know that I even spoke on anything that was understandable, but it's just this energy that I am feeling today it's really unlike anything that I've experienced. And I'm so grateful to those who are doing this work, who are, you know, working to take these things offline, to the, you know, and really it's like these galactic families that are supporting us through all of this, to recognize this whole time the support and the guidance that we have been having. And I know for me that's been one of the most difficult things, you know, that we have been so deeply veiled. And it occurred to me last night too that, oh my God, if I had really known what was going on while I was still dealing with all this other garbage, like, I would have just shattered, you know. So, and I have struggled with, I guess, seeing, right? Like, because it's like, I know all these things, but I always feel like I'm under this fog, and I always feel like I just can't quite see as clearly as I would like to. But I really had the understanding last night that if I had known, if I had been able to see all these things super clearly, that I would have shattered. You know, it's too much for the human to bear and to understand and to process all at once. It really, truly is. And I just know how hard I have been working for the last at least, 9 months. Like, I have been having at least a session per week, I think now, for at least the last 6 months. And I'm still like overwhelmed by some of this stuff. So knowing that, we talk about disclosure, right? I was thinking about this the other day too. It's not disclosure as much like in the media and out in the world as it is self-disclosure. Really, that's the first thing we have to deal with. And then we can handle all these other things, because it's recognizing it first through the self, which is really the most shocking and really the most difficult to come to terms with. It's a beautiful thing to recognize that we are not these programs, but it's also like, I don't know, this doesn't even really compare, but it's like when you realize like that Santa Claus doesn't actually exist, like that's kind of really sad. And that's kind of the way I feel. Like, not that the programming is Santa Claus by any means, right? But it's like, it's almost the opposite. It's like, oh no, but Santa Claus really does exist. Like, because miracles really do exist, because all this shit is really not who we are. And we've been hearing this for so long, right? That we are not these things, but yet it's like, okay, but what are we? Where are we going? What are we going to experience in this new energy? And now it's here, and it's like, it's almost that reverse Santa Claus phenomenon. I don't know if this is making any sense. It's really hard to be able to communicate what I'm feeling properly, but I just want to kind of talk about that with the mind, how quiet it is, and how I can also see that would be a little bit traumatic for people, if they're not fully understanding what's happening. So, I guess this is what it's like when that programming turns off, right? It's like, wow, it's so quiet. I don't know what to do with myself. The only other thing I can really compare it to is like, you know, when you have a really bad flu or you've been sick for a really long time and like the fever finally breaks or the you know, you start to feel like there's that day, that turning point, right? Where you start to feel better and you're like, oh my God, I had no idea I was that sick. You know, it's that kind of awareness. Like I had no idea how controlled I was. And it's a relief, right? Like, oh my God, that stuff was not me. It's such a relief. But at the same time, it's like, how sad that I have been beating myself up all these years. I mean, what is it, like 43 years now I've been on this planet? And I have tortured myself. Absolutely tortured myself. So, don't torture yourself. It gets better. That is not who we are. We were not put here to suffer. Yes, we've had to go through that in order to get to this point, but, you know, that is not who we are. So I hope that this was helpful. All right, I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk soon. Take good care.